Beyond the darkness, beyond the human evolution, is Khan, a genetically superior tyrant. Exiled to a barren planet, banished by a starship commander he is destined to destroy. Left for dead, he has survived.
I'll chase him round the moons of Nibia and round the Antares maelstrom and round perdition's flames before I give him up. There she is. There she is.
Shield's collapsing, Captain. Can you give me phaser power? A few shots, sir.
Not enough against their shields.
The base is stubborn.
Scotty, I need warp speed in 3 minutes or we're all dead.
I've done far worse than kill you. I've hurt you. And I wish to go on hurting you. I shall leave you as you left me, marooned for all eternity, buried alive, buried alive. Sean! Sean!
At the end of the universe lies the beginning of vengeance. Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
Welcome to Dorking Out. My name is Sonia Mansfield, and gone! Joining me is my podcasting sister from another mister and the co-host of Dorking Out, Margot D. Hello, my friend.
Are you out of your Vulcan mind?
That's my second favorite line. We are dorking out about 1982's Star Trek, The Wrath of Khan. This was a request. I don't remember who requested it, but we take requests, so I'm glad. I always like watching this one. It's, of course, based on the TV series Star Trek, and it's written by Jack B. Sowards, and it's directed by Nicholas Meyer, and it stars all the people from Star Trek. You know, William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, DeForest Kelley, George Takei's in there.
Oh my.
Oh my.
Oh my.
Nichelle Nichols. And then we got a very young and introducing Kirstie Alley. I guess this was her
She's
first
great.
movie. She looks adorable in it, by the way. Everybody drink. And yeah, I mean, she turned into a hot mess, but back in the day, she was great.
She was a hottie, and she's a good actress. I mean, she's very watchable.
She is. I thought she was very good in this.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see Star Trek Wrath of Khan in the theater?
I don't think I did. I don't have a memory of it. It's one of those things that was on TV a lot.
Yeah, I don't think I did either. I saw the first one in the theater, and I fell asleep because I was a kid, and I was probably like 8 years old, and my parents took me because they wanted to see it, and I fell asleep. I'm not a fan of the first one. I think it's really slow and feels super long. I like this one a lot more. I didn't see it in the theater, though. I saw it, like, on HBO or whatever. And I've seen it a few times since then. Every once in a while, I'll get it in my head to watch a bunch of Star Trek movies. And I will usually start with this one because I know that the first one is slow and boring. Have you seen all the Star Trek movies?
Oh, God, no. Sorry. I'm not a Trekkie. and you're gonna pretty much figure that out quickly because I have no idea what this movie's about. I kind of think I have an idea of what's going on, but I find it very enjoyable.
Yeah.
I love Star Trek 4.
Yes.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, that one's super fun.
It's so fun. You don't really have to know anything, and it just moves along. And I liked the remake or the reboot.
Yeah.
With the hot young people, Zachary Quinto and Chris Pine.
Yes.
I thought that was fun.
Mm-hmm.
But I know I've seen the documentaries. There's
Yes.
Trekkie and then more Trekkie or something.
Yes.
Liked those very much.
Yeah.
I think I like them even more than the actual show and the movies. I like the people that like Star Trek very
Yes.
much. I just don't always understand what I'm watching, but I like the ethos as well.
I get it. I grew up watching Star Trek, the show, because my dad loved to watch Star Trek, and it was in syndication. And so he watched it like every day, and I would sit there like on the couch and do my homework and watch Star Trek. So I've always liked Star Trek, and I like the movies. And like I said, every once in a while I'll get it in my head to watch a bunch of the Star Trek movies. I like 4 the best. I get why most people like 4 the best. It's the most accessible. It's fun. It's very like fish out of water, because the whole idea is that like the Star Trek crew are in like modern day San Francisco walking around. And of course, I like things that are filmed in the Bay Area. So there's another reason for me to like it. And you don't need to watch Star Trek to get it. I feel like this one, is the one that like hardcore Trekkies always like the best. They like Wrath of Khan the best because it is like so immersed in like Star Trek lore, or it's like, you know, it's based on an episode of the original show called Space Seed, and it had Ricardo Montalban as Khan. I almost blanked on the name. And you know, this is like what, 15, 20 years later or something like that. They're revisiting that storyline, like the repercussions of this episode in this full-length movie. And Ricardo Montalban is really good villain as Khan. He's really good in this. And at this point, like, to me, he was the dude from Fantasy Island.
Mr. Rourke. That was my favorite show, was Fantasy Island.
Like, I was, so it's for me, the first time seeing it, I'm like, that's the dude from Fantasy Island. And he's like got this, you know, in the movie, he's got this long hair and he's got this like rock hard pecs, like that. And
a tan. Like, they're very tan in space.
Yeah. I'm like, where did he get that tan?
But I mean, they're barely wearing anything. I mean, and they're all like, they're extras from a Scorpions video, like this big hair and the clothes in this. There's a thing where DeForest Kelley is wearing, it looks like a Madonna suit that she wore because it kind of highlights his crotchal area.
Yes, I know exactly what one you're talking about.
Yeah, and I was like, and he's very slim. Like, he keeps it together. Like, you know, William Shatner was starving himself and wearing 10 pairs of Spanx, or the equivalent of that at the time. But DeForest is kind of like lean and mean.
Yeah. Nimoy's the same. Leonard Nimoy's the same. Also lean and mean.
And also, there's the kid that played Johnny Slade in Square Pegs. Totally. He's the blonde, and he's like...
totally blanked on that.
Yeah, I loved him on Square. I'm old, by the way. We're not millennials here.
Yeah.
This is So I used, that was a show with Sarah Jessica Parker and Jamie Gertz.
Yes,
and
it's so cute.
It was really, really cute, and it was like early '80s, and it was like the new wave thing, and there were kids in LA, and he was like this new wave punk kid, and he always said things like totally, and he wore sunglasses everywhere. He plays the son, who has basically dresses like 1980 was the preppy handbook.
That part made me laugh out loud, because there's a part where he goes on the bridge, and I was like, did he just come from tennis? Like,
he went
sweater.
From the Facts of Life set and then wandered into the
He's
set.
got a sweater like tied around his shoulders, and I'm like, there's just such a weird...
It's a weird juxtaposition.
Super 80s thing. Like,
yeah, they're like, well, people are going to do this forever. They're going to take sweaters and wrap them around their necks. America was so white in 1980 that, like, it's the preppy handbook. It's all this very fussy culture
Mm-hmm.
that kind of took over after the 70s and disco and all that. It was like a response to like disco and punk and new wave was like hyper like stick up your butt private school
Yes.
choate Rosemary Hall thing. And so he's got this blonde surfer hair and then curly hair, and then he's got that wrapped around him, and then his mother, who's gorgeous.
Yes.
That's like Kurt's ex-girlfriend or
Yes.
ex-wife.
Just an ex-girlfriend.
So this young man is their spawn,
Yes.
their loved one. Okay, their son. And Kurt has said, "You said not to hang around, so I didn't hang around. I kept my deal."
Yeah.
Like,
It's
and she's like, "That's fine."
yeah, it's not portrayed as any kind of family drama, really. It's like she got pregnant, she said, "I don't need your shit," and he was like, "Cool, bye."
Right.
And like, he's off jetting around the universe, nailing every alien that he comes in contact with, and she's living her life and raising their son. And I don't know, she seems pretty fine with it.
Oh yeah.
I think they show up in part 3, if I remember correctly. But I haven't watched 3 in a couple years. I really love the original cast so much. And
They are I'm sorry, they're individual personalities,
yes,
which is tough to do on that show with the clothes that they had and the writing that they had. But I think it's part of it's just the actors, their personalities and their charisma kind of shining through.
yes.
That you don't have to know a ton about Star Trek to be like, oh, Uhura
Mhm.
and Scotty, and Chekhov. Like they feel like family. They feel comfortable.
Yeah, they're very comfortable with each other. They have like a shorthand and how they communicate. I like how international it's very diverse. The original crew, like everyone, I super love Spock. Like everyone loves Spock, but I also really love Bones. Like I love how incredible.
Did you want to bone Bones?
No, not at all. But I love how grouchy he gets. And like every movie he gets like grouchier and grouchier. He's like grouchy old man by movie 6. But he's already grouchy in this one. Like, hey, you out of your Vulcan mind? Like all of that stuff. And like going to
The
visit
leisure suits.
yeah, and like going to visit Kirk, and he's bringing booze and reading glasses, and like just how grouchy he is like makes me laugh every time. I'm very entertained by Bones, and
I'm sorry, I'm adjusting my window. There's a draft coming in, so I'm putting in. I have to put this blank up against the window.
Yeah,
Sorry,
you're fine. You're
Continue.
fine. I was just gonna say, like, people who are listening to the show, like, you're listening to two people who are not Trekkies talk about Star Trek. So if you're
The Trekkies have left, so
yeah, so if they're looking for like super detailed thoughts about like, well, what about when they're on Alpha 5 and they thought it was Alpha 6 and blah blah. We're not going to talk about that stuff because the truth is, like, a lot of that stuff doesn't really matter to us when we watch this movie. Like, I really like the cast. I like their interactions. I have a vague idea of what's going on and, like, what they're working on. And I don't really get lost in the, like, all the details. I like that this movie has those things, though. So for, like, Trekkies, who watch it, they can get into the details and that's going to work for them. I don't need that stuff to enjoy Star Trek.
No, nor do I. I'm completely okay with the characters. I do love Spock as well. He's my favorite.
Yeah.
He's the most, I mean, for somebody who has no emotions, he has so much, he's so honest.
Yes.
And he's such a good person, and he speaks to the best part people can be.
Yeah.
Which is like judging people fairly, and his being rational and not being so emotional. He treats people fairly, which is like a nice thing to see. And I love the whole I guess we're talking more just about Star Trek versus every scene in this film. Because if we did that, I'd be making fun of it, and I don't want to do that. I think it's. I mean, I just think the costumes are weird. Like I said, they look like they're in a Scorpions video with the. Or perhaps Motley Crue.
Well,
she's got the looks that kill. Like it's very silly.
I read that a lot of the crew for Khan, a lot of those men were Chippendale dancers.
Okay. That makes total fucking sense.
Yeah.
Because that's the vibe I get. Like any second they're gonna this is the end. Dun, dun, dun.
Everybody's working for the weekend.
And I wouldn't be mad at that if that happened. But that makes total fucking sense because I just saw we talked about Steve Energy on our What a Creep episode from So that whole aesthetic of what a good looking man looks like, what a hot man looks like. That is absolutely it for 19. What year did this movie come out? 82. Yeah, that totally tracks.
Yeah, they all look that part. You're right, and there's definitely like things to make fun of, and there's a reason why. Like there's a million skits of like on SNL or in Living Color. Everyone used to spoof Star Trek because there is stuff to make fun of, but. Again, like we don't want to get all lost in the details, but there is this overall story of like Kirk is getting older. He's like
I liked that too.
Yeah, he's weirded out about his birthday. He apparently is allergic to some sort of drug that you could take to fix your eyesight, so he has to use reading glasses.
Which I said too. I was in my head. I'm like, they don't reading glasses in this century, but okay.
Yeah, sure. Like we have LASIK, like they don't have that. Okay, that's fine. Whatever. Like you gotta let it go. So there's all of that going on. There's a lot of stuff with like Spock talking about like the needs of the many outweighing the needs of the few, and that is a whole thing that just hangs over the whole movie. And spoilers for Wrath of Khan, for a movie that came out like 40 years ago, but
40
like damn. I tweeted this out because I watched the movie this morning and I fully sobbed when Spock died. Like
spoiler.
And here's the thing. Again, I know how the movie ends. I've seen it. I've seen all the other movies. I know Spock's gonna be back. Spoiler for 3, but Spock's gonna be back. Like, I know all these things, but when he says, like, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, and he says, I have and always shall be your friend, it fucking wrecks me.
It totally
wrecks
does
me.
Too.
It made me cry.
Yeah, the person that's supposed to be not human is actually being very human.
Yes.
Or a very generous human. He's like the best part a human can be.
That's right, Max. He has all the humanity. Like he's so I know Max. Max is very upset that Spock died.
You're ruining the plot for me.
Max is like, I haven't seen 3.
I was saving it for later. Thanks a lot, Mom.
But it's like such a sad scene and so moving and such a big fucking deal. Because again, if you watch the show, the core cast never dies. Never. And there's like a running thing where like random red shirts like beam down to planets with the main crew and they always die. Random like it's a joke in Galaxy Quest, the Sam Rockwell characters like I'm just the random guy, like I'm gonna get killed. That's what always happens. So for like Spock to die was a huge deal, and apparently he wanted that because he was done. He's like, I don't want to make any Star Trek movies after this, but then he had such a good time making this one that he changed his mind, so they brought him back, which is great.
I think it's interesting, and maybe we can have a bigger discussion, like just about fan culture and what it was to be a TV star in the 60s versus like before that it was radio and whatever. But, you were known by millions of people and it was for this particular character. And if you're a talented actor and you want to do other things, yeah, it can feel like a straitjacket, especially if you don't make the kind of money like people in the 90s started making,
Yes.
being TV stars, where they're making money off the residuals. They didn't make any of that money. And so they had to do the convention route like 30 years before everybody else. Like, it's totally fine to do
Yeah.
it now. Nobody looks at it sideways. They're like, sure, make your money, meet your fans. What's the big deal? But it was a big deal in 1980 to say, I'm going to a convention to sign
Yeah, it was-
autographs for a living.
It was
It's
looked
almost
down.
a little demeaning. Yeah. And they're all smart, talented people, but they also they represented, and I didn't get this until I saw Trekkie, and I had a Trekkie friend who wanted to see the documentary. We had to go into San Francisco. I was going to San Jose State at the time. So we had to go into, I was like, ugh, why am I going to see this? And by the middle of it, I got very teary-eyed because I was like, oh, it's about a perfect world. What
Yes.
if people behaved better? What if we didn't have racism and poverty? What if we treated one another respectfully and had some joy
Yes.
with it? Wouldn't it be so much better? And it's these people that like it. That's how they feel. That's what they want. That's what they respect, and that's what they get from it.
Yeah.
So I get that. I got it. I finally got it. I was like, oh, that's actually really wonderful things to want for
Yeah.
the world. Yeah.
And this is, obviously a lot of this is like pre-internet. So
Mhm.
when you, back in the day, this was true of Star Wars too. When you said you like Star Trek or you like Star Wars, it was a way, almost like a shorthand for you to find your people. Like,
Or for people to be like, nerd alert. you
Yeah.
know?
yeah,
You
there,
had to-
there was,
People
yeah,
are judgy about it.
Yeah.
And so you had to be kind of like, I mean, to meet other women my age and be like, I love Star Wars. Like I want to live in Star Wars. Like, I totally get Star Wars.
yeah.
It wasn't, to find your people that are into it too. I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah, there was a time when it was not cool to like Star Trek or Star Wars. Like,
Right.
it was a
Or
sign that
comic
you,
books.
yeah, you were a nerd, a huge
Right.
nerd, and someone was definitely going to take your lunch money. Like, it was not a cool thing.
And being cool was important, which is not, I don't think is as important now. I think being more of an individual and finding your things, which is the way it should be.
Yes.
Like finding the stuff that makes you happy and just focusing on that versus judging people for liking things that you don't understand. Just enjoy what you have. But these people, like I said, they didn't make any money. They were always in turmoil. They never knew if this show was going to get picked up.
Yes.
It was always this happening. And then there were some conventions that happened in the middle of the 70s. And then this little movie called Star Wars came out. And there was also, what's the one with Steven Spielberg? One of them thinking of Close Encounters.
Yes.
So space became a thing. And then they were like, well, maybe we'll make this movie and we'll see. And it wasn't a great movie. I can't sit through it. I think the first one's terrible. It's just too slow. But the second one, I think they find the joy in
Yes.
it. It's something for the fan. They made it for the fans. This is something they totally made for fans. People who paid attention to all those seasons. My brother Joe had the Star Trek insignia put on a bunch of his shirts. Like Lenny from Laverne and Shirley had the big L. Or Laverne had like the lone wolf. Like Joe had that on his clothes. It was so cute.
Yeah.
But there was something you could, because my brother was kind of a Spock. He was very logical and very literal. And he just there's something there for people. And then Star Wars comes out. And of course, William Shatner goes on Saturday Night Live and says, oh, you're a bunch of losers, get a life. That
Have
was
you even kissed a girl? Stuff like that, which was funny at the time. But now you're like, don't be so
just mean.
Yeah.
Mean and judgmental. Don't be that. Well, now we know, Shatner's not exactly the most popular member of the cast. they all have their. There's very few that are like, oh, he's a great guy, but they've all Uhura. I love the story about Uhura, who she's an African American woman. She was on the bridge. She had a big responsibility. She was one of the few black faces you could see on TV, and she wasn't a maid, and she wasn't a cook.
Right.
She wasn't a teacher. She was a professional. This was her job. And everyone treated her with respect. And Whoopi Goldberg apparently saw that on TV and ran to her mom, goes, oh my God, there's a black lady on TV and she's not a maid. And that changed her life. Like, she's like,
Yeah.
well, I'm going to be a performer.
Well, even like George Takei, like that's a
Yes. Oh,
there's
I
no
love
one
George
like
Takei.
George Takei on TV. You know,
Right.
the man who's playing Chekhov, like
Right.
damn, what's his name? I'm looking it up right now. Walter Koenig, something like
Yeah.
that. Like, you know, he's Russian or something.
Mhm.
You know, we have Mr. Scott running the engine, and he's Scottish. You know,
I got the help the captain.
like
I can't do a Scottish
it's a
accent. I
very
normally can.
very diverse
Diverse.
group of people, and they all are very smart. They all rely on each other. They all work together.
Mhm.
It's such an entertaining, and this movie in particular is so entertaining because it has like that mix of action and humor, and there's emotion there because of, you know, the stuff that happens with Spock, and also the acknowledgement that like people are killed in their
Yes.
battles, which the show didn't really get into because they didn't have time.
They didn't have funerals.
Yes. Yeah. They didn't
There
have
was
time.
no time for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
the first movie didn't really have that. What I remember about the first movie the most is like all this like Enterprise porn. It's just like fucking so much footage of the ship from like every angle and like dramatic music, and I'm like, oh, we get it. The ship is rad, okay. And the movie's like over 2 hours long. It's really, really slow. But
It could,
This
yeah,
one
it could be
moves.
trimmed. Yeah. It's and I get it. Like, and I can feel it because when they had the Star Wars, the trilogy, not the prequels, but after
Yes.
that, the true sequels, I got very excited to see
Yeah.
to see all of my favorite characters. It's funny because also in 1982, when they made this, they were kind of like, we'll see if this makes money. Maybe we could still keep doing this thing, which is hilarious because then, do you remember what was the Star Trek show that was 80s and 90s that like everyone was obsessed with?
you mean Star Trek Next Generation?
Next Generation, is that it?
Yeah.
It's with oh god damn it,
With Patrick
Picard.
Stewart. Yeah.
Yes,
That's
Like,
Next
how-
Generation.
that would how popular that would be, and who could have guessed?
Yeah.
Especially syndicated. It was a syndicated TV show. It was not on the major channels.
It was so popular. I knew tons of people who watched that
Oh
show.
yeah.
I'm like,
Totally.
I didn't watch Next Generation that much. I watched it sometimes because I had roommates that loved it.
Yeah, I had roommates that liked it. So, and I like Data, and I do
Yeah.
like Picard. I kind of liked how
Yeah.
grouchy he was. I thought he was great. I mean, there's stuff I like about all of it, but there's it's all the ethos of Gene Roddenberry, who supposedly wasn't a great person. He might actually have been a creep,
Yeah.
but what he's trying to promote, especially we're saying the late 60s here, there are a lot of chaos in the world.
Yeah.
And he was promoting and thinking about, what if we thought differently? What if we put our best selves out there
Yeah.
and fought for those principles? What would the world look like?
Yeah. What if we weren't wasting our energy on this stupid shit and focusing
Right.
on the shit that matters? Imagine where we could go.
And how we treat people, and just treat people with respect, regardless if they're a man or a woman, if they're good looking or not, what race they are, if they're
Yeah.
religious or not, like just treat people with humanely and with
Yes.
respect. And what if we did that as a habit? And then it just became, that's just what we do. What would happen to the world? And that's the world he was dreaming of, and they were fighting to make that world happen versus we're fighting to get gold and be rich, or we're fighting, you know what I mean?
Right.
I thought that was really, and I didn't really, and then it's the second. So the first Trekkie documentary is about the US version. It was Mary Crosby, is that who it was? And she directed it.
Denise Crosby.
Denise, I always
Yeah.
say Mary Crosby. That's the one who shot JR. Spoiler. Spoiler for Dallas
Yep.
season 3. But she then she went internationally to conferences around the world, and she found out that people in Bosnia, when they were in war, would like watch the show
Oh my gosh.
because it inspired them
Yeah.
to think the best of people and to fight for what you believe in. And I just think, God, that is the most beautiful thing ever from a silly little TV show.
Yes.
And it's like I said, people would make fun of you for being nerdy, for liking a thing, for really connecting with a thing. But there's so much ugliness in the world,
Yeah.
and there's so much shallowness. And to see something that's that kind of pure and simple and beautiful it's really a wonderful thing.
Yeah, and there is still, like, much like Star Wars, much like Marvel, there is a toxic segment of Trek fandom for sure. Like something like Discovery comes out and it has like a lot of African American characters, and people get all shitty like about characters being black, and it's like, do you even watch Star Trek?
Do you even know what you're fucking talking about?
Exactly.
Answer, no.
I was like,
No.
bitch, please, have you watched
Right.
Star Trek? This is literally what it's about. And they're like, I don't want
First
politics in my Star Trek.
Oh, for God's, which is based on politics. The first interracial kiss
Yes.
was on Star Trek.
It's the same people that in Star Wars too. They're like, I don't want politics in my Star Wars. I'm like, have you watched Star Wars?
Do you even know what the fuck you're talking about? Answer, no.
Oh my God, people are dumb.
They are. But this movie is it moves along. I think the costumes are great. It has a wink and a nod to it.
For
Like
sure.
they know it's kind of silly.
This,
They
yeah.
know.
The thing about the earbugs.
Ugh.
Where they put this like eel larva in their ear and it like controls their mind. That shit scared it scared me to death when I was like 11 years old when I saw this movie. I was so scared.
Yeah. Well, it is scary.
They're gross.
Paul Winfield
Yes.
and Chekhov on the Paul Winfield, who go on to be City Confidential narrator. Ooh, we have a murder here.
Murder.
I just loved it. And what is the character's name? That's Spock's son, the actor. I had the Wikipedia in front of me. I can't find my glasses.
You mean Kirk's son?
Yeah, he died.
Yes, I am going to look it up for you.
Merrick Patrick.
Yep.
That's David Marcus. And I love this in that, well, I don't love this part. He died of AIDS and he was only 29.
Oh my
which is
God, that's
just
so young.
horrifying, yes. And then there were people who made, if you go, you can look this up online, when they were putting quilts out in front of the White House to get fucking Reagan's attention and Bush's attention about this shit.
Fucking Reagan. Fuck these
There were
guys.
2 quilts that had, and it was Merrick. It was the name of his character.
Oh my
that they-
God.
Right? So there's all kinds of people that relate to Star Trek.
Yes.
And there's all kinds of people like who are, let's say, are on the margins or feel like they're on the margins for whatever reason, that they feel a connection here. And I think that's something to be celebrated.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this movie is very entertaining.
It's super entertaining.
There's a lot of stuff in here for anybody really to connect with, I think. There's no like love story or whatever, but that's fine. It's good. I like it. What do you think of Ricardo Montalban?
I was, like I said, Saturday nights, it was Love Boat and Fantasy Island.
Oh,
for
yeah.
me for several years. I loved those Corinthian leather, those car commercials that he did.
What car was that for?
I
look it up.
wonder, but look that up because that was the Corinthian leather. He has this grandiose kind of way of
the way
speaking,
he talks.
but I think it's like so original, and there's only one Ricardo Montalban.
It was for the Chrysler. For
Of
Chryslers.
course. Chryslers are very
With
sexy.
Corinthian leather.
I think he's hilarious. I think he's having a great time
Yes.
playing a villain. I think they're all having a great time. They just seem, there's kind of like a smile on there. Even Kirstie Alley, who's like, it's her first big role, and
Yeah.
she's really good.
She's really good in it.
yeah.
Like-
I don't know. It's enjoyable.
Yeah, Khan has a motive, which is revenge, and he really wants Kirk dead. That's his big thing. But he's also like, he holds Kirk responsible for the death of his wife, but he mentions that his wife died because they had put that creature in her ear and it killed her. And I was like, well, how is that Kirk's fault? Like,
Well, didn't he abandon them or something?
I
or no?
guess. I'm like, he didn't come back and check on us, so you gotta go. But
But he's doing things in the universe. Like, how is he
Yeah.
supposed to come back and check on? I don't know.
But
But
he's busy.
Who cares?
But
But he's busy.
yeah, he doesn't think he's doing anything wrong. He thinks he's just getting his vengeance. And, you know, spoilers again, like Khan isn't going to make it and he dies like quoting Moby Dick. And I was like, what a pretentious prick.
But it's very entertaining.
It is.
It's a good time. It's very and when Spock dies, it's so sad.
So I really did
I'm
sob.
certain people were crying too in the theaters then. Like, what's
Absolutely.
going on?
It's a big deal. Like
Yeah.
now when you watch TV, like they kill off characters all the time. It's not even a big deal anymore when people die. And I know like this is a movie, it's not from the show, but like to kill off Spock was a big deal.
People knew what's Spock. Just the name is a meaning. It's a thing. Like people who never seen one episode of Star Trek know what a Spock is.
Yes.
They get it. But also Leonard Nimoy kept very active. I loved In Search Of. That was his.
Oh yeah. I used to
show
watch that.
And it was a show that like it was in search of, you know, the Bermuda Triangle
Mhm.
and the Sasquatch. Is there a Yeti out there? Like, and
I totally
Oh,
used to watch that.
that was so good. But he was also, but he had his own, like you said, he was sick of it. I'm 40 years old. I'm tired of this whole thing. I don't want to do it anymore. And then he's like, oh, this is actually kind of fun. And these people are cool and they're nice.
Yeah, and then he started directing, and he directed
Three Men and a Baby.
he did 3 Men and a Baby. I think he direct Star Trek 4? I think. I
He
forget.
probably did. Maybe that's how they got him back.
Like he was a really good director too, and I watched Invasion of the Body Snatchers last year, and Leonard Nimoy was in that too, and I was like, oh my god, he was so good in that too. Like he was a great director. He was very special actor too. Like whenever he showed up, like he was always good. He directed Star Trek 3 and 4.
Oh, so there you go.
So there you go. I really liked him, and he's very, very good in this. And his whole death scene is super sad, and like just because he, you know, again, like sacrifices himself to save everybody, and like the whole thing where like Kirk runs down, and he's like Spock, and Spock stands up, and he's like, even though he's dying, he stands up and he like straightens his uniform. It's like such a like Spock thing. I don't know. And then the whole, you know, always be your friend, live long and prosper, and they like match hands through the window.
Sorry, Cynthia.
I'm sensitive. I'm so sensitive. This one's it's super good.
Yeah.
Duh, surprise. And here's the thing, like spoilers. Surprise, hot take. Wrath of Khan's really good. People definitely have a theory that it's like only the even number Star Treks are good.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Other than the first one, I quite like all the Star Treks, but I really like Wrath of Khan and Voyage Home. Like those are the two go-tos that you watch over and over, and they're really good. I like all the other ones too. It's just not as much as those. That's all. Do we have anything else we want to say about Khan?
I think I'm done.
Okay.
I'm good.
Do you want to hear the other movies that came out in 1982?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Did you see Quest for Fire?
No.
Me neither.
I know what it is, but I had no interest.
Yes, there were a couple, like Quest for Fire and like Clan of the Cave Bear were like these two movies where I would mix them up all the time because I'm just like, those movies look weird. I've never seen either of them, by the way, so maybe they're great. Richard Pryor live on the Sunset Strip.
Oh, yeah. That was on HBO.
Yes, all the time. HBO used to air comedy specials all the time. Victor Victoria.
I haven't seen that in a
I
long
haven't
time.
seen it since I would have been a kid, so I'm sure a lot of it went over my head. But I should rewatch. I'll put it on my list. It's got James Garner in it and Julie Andrews. I like those people.
Is it Blake Edwards?
Yeah,
He's kind of hit or miss for me.
exactly. Same.
Yeah.
Did you see Cat People?
Yes, of course.
That movie's naughty.
It's a very naughty movie. Yeah, you would sneak in the middle of the night to watch it.
I haven't seen that one as an adult either. I'm sure a lot of that went over my head. Younger Sonia was like, what the fuck? Those people are naked. Now they're cats. Annie.
I loved Annie.
Annie was a jam. Every kid was watching Annie.
That soundtrack, the Broadway soundtrack,
Yeah.
I would listen to over and over again. I loved that soundtrack. I love the story because it's all kids.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Have you watched the new Matilda that's out?
No.
Me
No.
neither. I've seen clips of it and I was like, I might actually like that, but I haven't watched it yet. More movies. The Beastmaster.
Yeah, is that what's his face? Mark Singer?
Yes, Mark Singer.
Laurie Singer's brother.
Yes. So Beastmaster was on all the time on TBS
Yep.
and HBO. And so we had the running joke that TBS was the Beastmaster station. And we watched it all the time. I have a feeling that movie's fucking terrible, but I loved it when I was a kid. Pink Floyd, The Wall.
Love The Wall. It's a fucked up movie, but I love it.
Yeah. First Blood.
Rambo, First Blood. I didn't mean it. I didn't do anything.
It's got our old man crush, Brian Denny.
Got some Brian Denny action.
Yeah, I think if people see First Blood, if they haven't seen First Blood, but they've seen all the Rambo movies, they might be surprised that First Blood is actually a really good movie
And dark.
and dark.
very deep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then Rambo is just like, and now we're destroying stuff. Yeah, woo! Like,
I'm going after the Sandinistas.
so there's so many Rambo movies now. I always like another one will come out like every couple years. Another Rambo movie will come out, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me with it? Anyway, the first one's really good actually. Halloween 3: The Season of the Witch.
I don't care what people say. I think it's dog shit. When people tell me that's one of their favorites because it's so silly, I have no patience for it.
That's
Because
hilarious.
I sat through it. It was a drive-in that my family went to, and we were all, and my parents were like, "We're not leaving. We're gonna," and it was a fucking misery.
I like Halloween 3 now, but I could certainly understand why somebody would go see Halloween 3 back in the day and it's not Michael Myers. You'd be like,
Right.
what the fuck? I get it. I still think Halloween 3 is super fun, and I saw it at the Castro Theater a couple years ago, and they paired it with Poltergeist, and it was very fun. And then the last movie is Friday the 13th in 3D. That's the third Friday the 13th. It's, I think, probably the most fun of the Friday the 13th movies, if you think that sort of thing is fun. I like Friday the 13th in 3D. Like, it might be my favorite of all of them. I shouldn't say that. I haven't seen them all.
I have nothing to say.
It's my favorite of the ones I've seen. There we go. Why don't we take... Oh, no, go. You want to do songs?
Very quickly, we're going to do the top 10. This is the U.S. It was June 5th when the movie came out, or 25th? 1982.
Yes. June.
Okay.
Yeah, June 4th.
June 4th, so this is June 5th it's a Friday that anyway. So these are the top 10 songs of the time. Number 10, everyone knows this song. Toto, Rosanna.
I love that song.
Yeah. This one I haven't heard in forever. Paul Davis, 65 Love Affair.
Oh my God, that's
Remember that song?
Yes.
65 Love Affair. I love this song. I was totally into this. Asia, Heat of the Moment. Those were those videos.
I loved those. Heat of the Moment, and was it Only Time Will Tell?
Yes.
Yeah, those were dope. I love those
Dope
songs.
This is a really good one. Willie Nelson, Always on My Mind.
Oh, Willie.
Good song.
Still good.
This is another good one. The Human League, Don't You Want Me?
I love that song. Love
Good
it.
song. This isn't so great. Ray Parker Jr., The Other Woman. He does a lot of cheating songs.
Yeah,
If you
not
look
my
at his
not my
catalog.
fave.
Yeah. Here's a classic. Tommy Two-Tone, 867-5309.
It's catchy. It's fucking catchy, man.
Catchy. Charlene, I've Never Been to Me, which you have to see the drag movie Priscilla, Queen of the Desert
Oh,
to see
yes.
that song done properly. It's a
I've
stupid
been
song.
to paradise.
I've been in bed with kings and plenty of things that a lady ought to do. Like, well, what do you? But she envies her friend who got
Yeah,
married and had
but
kids.
I've
Sure.
never been to me.
To me. And my friend's mom used to be like, "Who cares about me? I want that life." I'm with you, Mom. I'm with you, lady. Number 2, awesome song, Rick Springfield, Don't Talk to Strangers.
Fucking love Rick Springfield. Love
I think
him.
it's a Sammy Hagar song, by the way.
Is
think
it?
Sammy Hagar wrote. I think it is. And then this is a song, number 1, 1982, June, by 2 people I fucking adore, and a song that is fucking terrible. Paul McCartney and Stevie Wonder, Ebony and Ivory.
Oh, song is so terrible.
It's so fucking stupid.
So bad. The only good thing to come out of that is the Eddie Murphy, Joe Piscopo.
You are black
spoof.
and I am white.
So bad. It's such a shitty song.
It's horrible. I was just like, ugh.
Ugh. Okay. Why don't we take a break and we'll come back to what else we're dorking out about. What else are you dorking out about, my friend?
I watched this last week and I need to watch it again because I loved it so much. It's Netflix, Pale Blue Eye.
Ooh, that's on my
Based
list.
on a novel. There's a person, it's Christian Bale, who's Christian Bailing all over the place in the best possible way. This is the Christian Bale I like, just
Okay.
psychotic and has a mission. Yes, please. That's what I want to see. It's a mystery that takes place with Edgar Allan Poe, and they're at the military school, the very famous military school. I'm like blanking the name on it right now, and it's Edgar Allan Poe was a student there. West Point, sorry.
Yeah.
There's a murder there, and Edgar Allan Poe was a student there, and the guy who plays is Henry Melling, and he was Dudley in the Harry Potter movies.
Okay.
And he's having this renaissance. Like, his performance as Edgar Allan Poe is up there for me with Val Kilmer playing Doc Holliday.
Oh.
Just takes a good movie and he just has this, it just elevates everything.
Oh, shit. This just moved up to the top of my list.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little slow at times, I will say that. But the cinematography is beautiful. They have Gillian Anderson's in this movie. There's some really good people in this movie. It looks beautiful. There's a twist that I didn't see coming.
Okay.
I don't always catch the twists. And I just thought it's gorgeous. It's really beautiful. And especially his performance of Edgar Allan Poe, it's just next level.
All right.
Next fucking level.
This sounds awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Moving it up my list.
Yeah, I think you'll really like it. Then also on Netflix was the Madoff documentary.
Oh, yeah.
Really good. I saw this, we did an episode about him on What a Creep, and he's a total sociopath. The show has interviews with the real Madoff before, obviously, he passed away, but he was giving testimony in a civil trial. And what he got away with and how he got away with it is just, and people still do that shit.
Yeah,
like
they do.
NFTs and shit. Yeah. there's all kinds of scams still going on. And anyway, but I found it very, very compelling.
Okay.
I just think, but it's done in like 3 parts, maybe kind of balance it out, because after a while it's a little depressing.
Okay.
Because just people being taken advantage of. And then I don't know if you remember a movie, and I found it was on Netflix.
Okay.
And it was out in the mid-70s. It was called The Other Side of the Mountain. Do you remember this?
No.
It's about a woman, real life story about a woman in the 50s who was a skier in the Tahoe area. Very famous. And she was really, really good. And she was going to be on the Olympic team in like 56 or 58, one of them. And she gets into an accident going down the hill. And she's on the cover of Sports Illustrated, by the way. The same week she's on the cover of Sports Illustrated. She's gorgeous. She gets into an accident skiing, and she basically falls down a mountain. Ah!
Oh.
And then she winds up paralyzed from like the chest down.
I have never heard of this movie.
Yeah, I remember this. I don't know. I like babysitters that watched it or something. I don't know. It was a movie, and then it was on TV a lot. And then she is dating a guy who they're engaged, and then he's also like a famous skier as well. And then as soon as he sees her in the hospital, and he thinks like, okay, she's been in the hospital for a while, but she says she's got something to show me. She must be really improving. So he shows up and he sees her in the wheelchair, and she didn't have use of her hands anymore either.
Oh.
So she basically has her hands like in a fist kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And she basically showed him when he comes over, and she shows him like, look at what I can do. And she basically takes a potato chip and puts it in her mouth, but it takes forever.
Yes.
And he's looking at her. He goes, what's going on? Aren't you going to walk? And she's like, no, I'm never going to walk again. And then he's like, oh, sorry. And then peace out. He dies in an avalanche later. So it all works out in the trash.
What a creep.
But Beau Bridges plays a skier who trains her when she had the ability, and then but he's kind of a wacko, and her family thinks he's unreliable. Then she gets in this accident, and he's the one person that shows up for her, and he goes to the hospital, and he helps her, and he helps her out at home, and he helps her find her purpose and encourages her like she wants to be a teacher. And they said to her, you can't be a teacher because teachers can't be in wheelchairs. They're too vulnerable. We're not even going to give you a degree. Jesus. So she had to fight just to get the fucking degree. And then she taught Native American kids in her town.
Oh.
And it's a true story. And so Beau Bridges, spoiler, he's like, I love you. We're going to get married. I don't give a shit about this wheelchair. We're going to make a life together. She's like, really? He goes, yeah, really. So she's home, and he's going to bring her a ring. And by the way, he's a pilot. And he's like a stunt pilot.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to her place, right? And they get all the cake out. He doesn't show up. And then they wait another day, and he doesn't show up. And then the 3rd day, his father calls. And then her dad. And then her dad has to say, I'm really sorry. They lost him. They don't know where his plane is.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And that's like the end of the movie.
Burr, burr.
Holy shit. But this really happened to the woman. And she then about 15 years later, she's teaching, and she meets a really hot guy, and they start dating, and they actually are married for like 40 years. And she outlives him by a couple of years. So she was very she never felt sorry for herself. She was all about helping other people who were wheelchair bound find careers and find jobs.
Yeah.
And let's put ramps on some fucking buildings.
Imagine that.
Elevators,
Jesus.
right? And giving people some opportunity. And then, they would not put her in colleges, turned her down left and right, because they're like, there's no point. We don't have any ramps. We can't even take care of you. But even if we give you a degree, you're not going to get a job.
Obviously, this is before the Americans with Disability Act.
Correct. This is in the 50s and the 60s. But this movie comes out in the 70s. Yeah. So everybody's like 70s looking, but it's supposed to take place in the 50s. But it's a corker. It's like it's really just kind of, so I was really into it. I'm
like kind of surprised I've never heard of this.
Yeah, it didn't have like a hit song or anything with it, but it was a big deal because they did the second one. But I told you, I started watching the second one, and then they had an incident where there's like a deer stuck in a fence, and I can't tell if the deer is real or not. So I bowed out. So but I think she marries that guy, so she's okay. Anyway, I
Okay.
looked her up. In real life, she's fine.
Okay, good.
Anyway, I also just want to mention Real Housewives of Salt Lake
Yes,
City.
that's on my list. Damn. Let me ask you something, because
Yes, please.
I've only watched like Real Housewives of Salt Lake City is the only one I've seen from like beginning, you know.
You're
and
completist with Real Housewives of
yes,
Salt Lake City.
I have watched like a couple of seasons of New York, and that's it. Has there ever been a season? Has there been another in the franchise with like this much fucking legal problems? Like,
Teresa in New Jersey.
okay.
So Teresa and her husband, and she's coming out, like everyone thinks, and I agree, that Jen should have gotten more time. So Jen
Right.
Shaw basically ran this marketing scheme with other people,
It's so
and they
fucked up.
scammed people to give them money, so they would say, oh, we're going to teach you how to build a website, we're going to teach you how to run your business, and you take these courses, and then the more courses you take, then you can run your website. And it's like, that's not even how it works. You can just put your shit on Etsy and
Yeah.
sell it, but nobody tells them that. And they spent $4 or $5 grand per course, and they just encourage people to apply for credit cards and max out their credit cards and apply for another credit card. And when you see the stories of the people, when you read their stories and you hear their stories and you see pictures of these people and people who wound up homeless, who
Yeah.
lost everything. And this woman who for almost 2 years, or a year and a half, was like screaming.
Yeah, I'm
She was innocent and hostile about it, who asked her mother for money, and her mother sold everything for this woman's defense fund. Gave up her scammed her own mother.
Scammed another old person on her way into fucking prison. Like,
Yes.
just trash. What a bad
mother.
person. Her own mother.
Her own mother. And then when she's confronted, they said, oh, did you read all this, the details? And the other ones are like, holy shit. When they read the stories of the victims, they're like, this is bad.
It's real bad. It's not a victimless crime. It's
No.
These people really suffered, and some of them ended up homeless. It's terrible.
And she just is like, you know what I realized? Stewart's bad. Like, this was this guy that she I mean, it's like, what?
Yeah, even up to the end, like, no accountability, like, blaming Stewart, you know. And I'm like, and I'm sure, like, he's responsible too. But, like,
Sure.
But she was in on it. She knew. And just up until the end, like, telling Heather and Meredith, like, that she's innocent and then pleading guilty.
Right.
Which is, you know, and everyone's like, like, the episode was interesting in that it kind of ends with, like, Heather and Lisa talking about it, because
and
crying because here's the, like, they're I don't know. It's like they're kind of friends with Jen. Like, Heather appears to be like an actual friend of Jen's, but really they're like coworkers, right? They do this show together. But the truth is, like, you don't want to believe the people in your life are capable of these things.
Well, you also are like, when you're working with people and there's cameras around you all the time, you don't want to stick your neck out and say this person is guilty or whatever, because what if they do get off? What if they, you know? So it's Meredith is sort of like just played it straight down the middle, and that was kind of the best way to deal with her, because there's not enough that Heather could do for her to make Jen. Jen is going to deplete Heather in 2 seconds if Heather keeps trying to prolong this friendship. But, and I believe in, like, you stick up for your friends, but when they fuck up, a good friend will say, I got your back, but you got to take some responsibility.
Exactly.
You know, I'll visit you in prison. I'll write you letters. I'll send you books. But if you have no accountability, if you don't have an ounce of shame or guilt about this, I have no respect for you.
It is also like, there's this huge thing that's hovering over this whole episode, which is we already know that Jen has pled guilty and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And Heather is always like, I'm ride or die for my friends and blah, blah, blah. And she gives someone like Jen so much grace and like is so forgiving and she is unwilling to give an inch to someone like Whitney. And I'm like, what is that? Like, supposedly they're related too, on top of that. And I'm like, you don't have a little bit of grace for Whitney? Just a little.
I wonder if, the reunions are coming up, and the reunions are always a good time for people. But Heather has a book that's coming out, so we'll see how the book does. But yeah, Heather was like an all-star for like 2 seasons, and then this season she wasn't great. Like she had to take, she didn't look good. It was a season of chaos. I mean, there's some people that are friends of that they didn't get it's not a diamond, it's like a snowflake that they get in the credits. Like they didn't get that. There's only like 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah, because they lost Mary, they lost Jenny, and now they've lost Jen.
And Mary is pretty goddamn shady too. I mean, I think one of the reasons she's not there is she's like, I don't want them digging into my business. But
Mary might have been real smart about this. Like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Peace out.
Yeah, peace out. I'm gonna. Mary has a religion. She has a church, and she doesn't pay taxes, and she fleeces people, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it was wild. It was a wild journey. New Jersey had Teresa and Joe, and that was the first season of New Jersey. They built this horrible, ugly McMansion in Franklin Lakes, New Jersey, and Joe was this little thumb of a guy. Just there's a lot of Joes in this show.
Yeah.
And he would pay money in cash for everything. So he'd have workmen come over and goes, you put the marble down. How much? $5,000. Oh, and then he'd do that thing where he'd lick his thumb and then flip out the dollars as he handed them out to people. But they spent so much money, and it was like, how do people possibly have this much cash on them for everything? And so it doesn't take long for the government to kind of do a little digging. But they signed all kinds of paperwork for phony employees, people that they fake employees and stuff like that. Also not exactly victimless, but not nearly as bad as like fleecing people.
Right.
Like this is next level. Or it's not even like Erica Jane. You can make the argument that her husband, she probably really didn't know what he was doing, or certainly didn't know the extent of it.
Right.
But she's still kind of shitty too, because she doesn't show any.
Yeah. Well, and she
kind of interest in other people, but.
Yeah. And then when she finally did know, she was like, I don't care, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, the narcissism on these shows is really off the charts.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that reunion. Is it going to be 2 parts or 3?
I hope it's just 2. If it's 3, it's really going to drag it out.
Yeah, they drag it out.
I mean, Angie and the other Angie, and there's like 2 Angies and a Dana or a Data.
I don't know.
Yeah, they all are kind of like, and then there's one thing with Jen, though, like she was really good with the insults. She's like, Angie K's husband was a fucking elf on the shelf.
Jen was a very entertaining housewife, like
very entertaining,
and when they would go on these trips together, like she would bring it, she was also, took no accountability, and that was
psycho.
Yeah, a psycho, and very frustrating. And there's also a running thing about how Heather got her black eye, and like Angie K is saying, not Angie K, the other Angie is saying that like Jen and Heather were fucking, basically.
They said they were scissoring, and then Lisa's like, what's that? I don't know what that is. So then somebody makes the hand gesture, and she still has no mind.
She's like, I don't know how that works.
Because just...
I'm not
Lisa's my favorite.
I'm all Lisa has kind of turned into my favorite on the show.
Yeah.
Like, because I don't know. She's just Lisa, but...
She's just Lisa.
Yeah, she's like, how does that work? I don't know what that is.
Hi. And the way she walks into every room, but they do this on Watch What Crap. It's like, hi, waiter, hi, chef, hi, staff, hi, baby gorgeous. To her son, like she's just.
My sister
so
and
ridiculous.
My sister and I do that all the time. We do that. I love that for you.
I love that.
I love that. I love that for you. So I have a few things on my list.
Oh, yes, please.
I watched the hatchet-wielding hitchhiker documentary on Netflix. Have you seen this?
No, I was all busy with Lizzie Borden this week. I already
Yeah.
had enough axes.
Yeah,
and
that's enough
hatchets-
wax.
Hatchets, yeah.
Yeah, so
Hatchets.
somehow I missed this story when it happened, which is bananas because it happened like right here in California, but a man like crashed his car into someone else and got out and proceeded to like attack people nearby, and it turned out he had picked up a hitchhiker, and the hitchhiker like came to their defense and like saved these people. And he had like a little hatchet and he used like the blunt end to like fight this guy off. And he's interviewed by the local news in Fresno, and this is in like 2013. And he only gives his first name. He's like, I'm Kai, and he just seems like a stoner surfer homeless guy, or houseless, however you want to say it. And
Unhoused.
yeah, unhoused, and he's fine with that. Like, that's how he wants to live. And he's just like, yeah, man, he was like attacking them, so I just was like, that's not cool, man, you know. And so like I fought him off, and you know, smash, and saved everybody. And he goes viral. Like, the clip of him on the news goes viral, and he gets like internet famous. And then like the producers of like the Kardashian show are trying to track him down, and like Jimmy Kimmel wants him on his show, so he's trying to track him down. All these people are trying to track him down, and they just build him up, like put him on TV and like make him really famous. And he's like traveling around and like really depending on the kindness of strangers, like taking money and food from people, but he would always like pay it forward and give it to like other like people that needed it. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, he's like so generous. He's like such an interesting character, blah, blah, blah. But it turns out like he's not who he says he is. He actually has a very violent streak, and all these other things come out. And it's very interesting. It's less than 90 minutes.
I will see that.
I cannot believe I didn't know this story, because I'm very online. Like, I'm always looking at Twitter and stuff and seeing what people are talking about. How I missed this, I don't know, but it was very, very interesting. And it's really sad too, because dude's really fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, California, because of the weather, it attracts more people that kind of want to live.
Yeah.
Or just your chances of survival are better there.
Yeah.
Than another, like in New York, it's pretty tough to be an unhoused person.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's
there's a lot of mentally ill people too. I mean, not everyone's mentally ill,
Yes.
and not every mentally ill person is dangerous
Yes.
for sure.
exactly.
They're more of a danger to themselves.
But it's interesting because the idea of like who you give a platform to, like maybe like a little bit more research into who you're putting on your platform, whether it's like Jimmy Kimmel's show or the reality show producers that were trying to find him. It's like if they had maybe done a little bit more research, they could have found out that like he wasn't okay. Like he wasn't just like a dude who's like, yeah, man, that's how I live. Woo. You know, he had problems, and there's consequences for this. I don't even want to like give it all away.
No,
but it's
don't
like,
give it away. I want to watch it. Yeah.
It's really well done. It's super interesting. And again, I couldn't believe I didn't know it. And then 2 more things. I watched Tar.
Okay, is that worth watching? I'm on the fence about it.
I say yes.
Okay.
It's written and directed by Todd Field, and it stars Cate Blanchett, and she's playing a fictional composer. It's like the rise and it's kind of the downfall of this very famous composer and conductor. And it's really interesting. It went places I wasn't expecting. Cate Blanchett's really great in it. I liked it. I say this about every movie. It felt too long to me, but I still really liked it. I thought it was
And
good.
you watched it at home, or did
Yeah,
you
I
watch
streamed
it in
it.
the theater? Okay.
And then I also watched Triangle of Sadness, which won like the top award at the Cannes Film Festival. And I'll just give you guys a quick overview because I don't want to spoil things, but like there's these like 2 like Instagram models that are like invited to on a luxury cruise. It's very below deck, Margot.
Okay.
There's like the rich people who are on the yacht, and then there's like the people who are working on the yacht, and it's led by this like alcoholic, very unhinged boat captain that's played by Woody Harrelson. I didn't recognize anybody else in this movie. He's the only person I recognized. And the whole thing on the boat is like you say yes to these people no matter what, because they're super fucking rich. So that's happening. And then I don't want to spoil where the movie goes, but the movie has a lot to say about like money and class division and power dynamics. And I thought it was there's some stuff in the movie that's really gross. And if you've seen the trailer, there is a whole thing where the boat is rocking back and forth and people start getting really seasick, and there's a lot of vomiting. So if you're
an emenophobe, which is a fear of vomiting, or not, you can't see vomiting, that would be hard.
I can handle seeing vomiting, but if you are someone who is sensitive even to like, if I would imagine if I was in the theater, I would have vomited, because the tilting back and forth would have made me.
It's not going to work for me.
Yeah, watching it on TV was not bad, and I'm very sensitive. Like, if I think I'm gonna throw up, I freak the fuck out. So, like, I made it through. That stuff is gross. It's really gross. So warn you. But I think the movie is really, really interesting, and I was glad I watched it.
That's funny you mention that, because on Below Deck this season, they have a crew where they had a set of passengers, and I'm not sure where they're from. They have Indian accents.
Okay.
But I don't know if they're from the States or not, but these people are so bossy and obnoxious and entitled, and it's all of this, and it's usually like the primaries are usually not that bad. It's usually their friends that are along on the trip that tend to be the most. If they're going to be obnoxious, they tend to be the ones, because they probably don't even have money in their life. So they're like, yeah, get me this and get me that. And I'm like, so they're barking orders and they're really being like terrible. And then at one point they're into hookahs and cigars, and they're like, we have a hookah and a cigar every night. I'm like, okay. So they're smoking their cigars and they smoke them backwards. And then like nobody tells them that they're smoking them backwards. And it's the funniest fucking thing, because it's like such a burn. Because when they see themselves on TV, they're just going to be like, oh my God.
Stupid.
It's so, she's like, it's like they're sucking balls down their throat. Like, it's like they don't know it, and nobody will tell them.
Oh my God, they're so dumb.
They're so bad.
That's
but
ridiculous.
yeah, sometimes you get that on that show, and it's like, well, how much are you paying for something, and the way that the crew works, and it's like, but we also know it's a show. They get like a deep discount.
Yeah.
In order to do it, so it's like 2/3 off or something.
Yes.
So anyway, but that's one of my favorite things I saw on TV in a while. It was just everybody giggling and watching these horrible men just yelling and drunk and like smoking these cigars backward, like you see the label at the end.
Oh my God, that's so dumb.
And they think they're being like badasses.
You're hilarious. You love Below Deck.
I do love Below Deck. It's workplace, it's travel, it's food, and it's just if the clients are bad, if the guests are bad, the cast, the crew does well. If the crew is terrible, the clients are nice. So there's always a balance.
Yeah. This movie, Triangle of Sadness, it's divided into 3 parts. So the middle part is the yacht part. And so if you do watch it, like the beginning is a lot about the relationship between the 2 models, which I think is super interesting, and it just gets more and more as the movie progresses. I thought it was, I really liked it. It, like I said, gross though.
Is it a drama?
It's I would say dark comedy.
Oh, okay.
If you watch it, you and I will have to talk off mic about it, because I'll be very curious what you think.
Okay, I've got it on my list.
All right. And I think that's everything.
Yeah, I'm tired.
Yeah. This was super fun. I'm glad we talked about Star Trek Wrath of Khan. We're out of our Vulcan minds. Margot, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me at Brooklyn Fitchick for Twitter and Instagram. My site is brooklynfitchick.com, and I am on TikTok at Margot Donahue.
And if you like the sound of our voices, and I assume you do, we also co-host a podcast called What a Creep, where we talk about creeps of the past and present, and we end every episode with someone who's not a creep, so you don't think the world is total garbage at the end of the episode. Check it out at whatacreeppodcast.com. You can find me at thesoniashow.com, The Sonia Show on Twitter, Instagram, and the TikTok. And you can find Dorky and Out Show wherever you listen to your podcast. You're listening right now. Give us a couple of stars. That would be delightful. You can email us at dorkyandoutshow@gmail.com. We'll send you some stickers if you like. And we take requests. Somebody emailed us, some listener Meg, and asked if we would do foul play. So
I'm into that.
So I put it on the list. We take requests. Please send us your requests. Again, I'm glad we did some Star Trek. This was good.
It was so much fun. And I say to everyone, live long and prosper.